I saw everything. Now get out of this house.
The phone rang at 3:17 a.m., jerking me from another sleepless night spent staring at the ceiling. My wife Lena lay beside me, breathing deeply, completely oblivious to the world. She'd always been a heavy sleeper, especially after her evening wine ritual. "Mr. Thompson?" The voice on the other end was shaky, nervous. I recognized it immediately. Jake Morrison, the security installer who'd upgraded our home system just 2 days ago. "Jake, what the heck? It's 3 a.m. "Sir, I need you to listen carefully. I'm deleting footage from your security system right now, forever. Get your kids and leave the house immediately." I sat up straighter, my heart hammering against my ribs. "What are you talking about?" "What I saw on the feed from earlier tonight. Jesus Christ, Mr. Thompson. It made me physically sick. I threw up in my van. You need to stay away from your wife." The line went dead. I stared at the phone, my hands trembling. Lena stirred beside me, mumbling something incoherent before rolling over. In the dim light filtering through our bedroom curtains, she looked peaceful, innocent even. The woman I'd married 15 years ago, the mother of my 2 children. But Jake's words echoed in my head. "Stay away from your wife." I slipped out of bed and padded quietly to my home office, where the security system's main monitor glowed softly in the darkness. My fingers hesitated over the keyboard. Part of me didn't want to know. Part of me wanted to crawl back into bed and pretend this conversation never happened. But I had to look. The footage was gone. Every single file from the past 24 hours had been wiped clean. Jake had been thorough. But there was one clip left. A short segment that must have been uploading to the cloud when he started deleting. 30 seconds of grainy night vision footage from our kitchen camera. I clicked play. The timestamp showed 2:43 a.m. The kitchen appeared empty at first, just our familiar granite countertops and stainless steel appliances bathed in the green glow of night vision. Then movement caught my eye. 2 figures entered the frame. Lena, wearing the silk nightgown I'd bought her for our anniversary, and behind her, a man I recognized immediately. Brandon Wolfe, her brother's business partner. The same Brandon who'd been coming to our house for family dinners, who'd played catch with my kids in the backyard, who'd shaken my hand and called me brother. What they did next, on my kitchen counter, in my home, while my children slept upstairs, burned itself into my memory forever. I sat there for a long time after the clip ended, staring at the blank screen. 15 years of marriage, 2 beautiful kids. A life I thought was solid, built on trust and love and shared dreams. All of it a lie. The rational part of my brain kicked in, the same methodical thinking that had made me successful in software development. I needed evidence. I needed to understand the scope of this betrayal, and I needed to protect my children. I spent the next hour going through Lena's things with surgical precision. Her laptop was password protected, but I'd set up all our home computers. I knew her passwords. She used variations of our anniversary date for everything. What I found made my stomach turn. Months of messages between Lena and Brandon. Explicit photos. Detailed plans for rendezvous. And worse, conversations about my business, my assets, my life insurance policy. They weren't just having an affair. They were planning my destruction. One message thread particularly caught my attention. Brandon, "How much longer do we have to keep this up?" Lena, "Not long. The company's worth $2.3 million now. Once I get half in the divorce, we can be together openly." Brandon, "What about the kids?" Lena, "David's problem. I never wanted to be a mother anyway." I had to grip the desk to keep from falling over. My children, Emma, 8 years old, and Tyler, 6, were just obstacles to her. Inconveniences in her grand plan to cash out of our marriage and run off with her lover. By 4:30 a.m., I had everything I needed. Screenshots, printed emails, financial records showing secret accounts. I packed it all into a folder, then went upstairs to wake the kids. "Daddy?" Emma rubbed her sleepy eyes as I gently shook her shoulder. "What's wrong?" "We're going to visit Aunt Carol for a few days," I whispered, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's a surprise. Can you help me pack Tyler's bag?" My sister Carol lived 20 minutes away. She was a night owl, often up until dawn working on her freelance graphic design projects. When I showed up at her door with 2 confused children and a haunted expression, she didn't ask questions. She just made hot chocolate and set up the guest room. "David, what's going on?" she asked once the kids were settled in front of her television. I handed her the folder. Read this, all of it. Then tell me I'm not losing my mind. Carol was quiet for a long time as she went through the evidence. Finally, she looked up at me with tears in her eyes. That witch, she whispered. That absolute witch. How long has this been going on? At least 6 months based on the messages, maybe longer. What are you going to do? I stared out her kitchen window at the sunrise painting the sky pink and orange. It was beautiful, peaceful, a stark contrast to the chaos in my head. I don't know yet, but I'm not going down without a fight. I returned home at 7 a.m., just as Lena was starting her morning routine. She was in the kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd watched her betray everything we'd built together. She wore her yoga clothes and had her protein smoothie blending, the picture of suburban perfection. "Morning, honey," she said without looking up from her phone. "Where are the kids? They're going to be late for school." "They're safe," I said simply. Something in my tone made her glance up. For just a moment, I saw a flicker of fear cross her face. Then her mask slipped back into place. "Safe? What do you mean? Where are they, David?" "Somewhere you can't hurt them anymore." Now I had her full attention. She set down her phone and turned to face me completely. "David, you're scaring me." "What's wrong? Did something happen?" The audacity was breathtaking. Even now, caught red-handed, she was still trying to play the innocent wife. "I had an interesting phone call this morning," I said, leaning against the door frame. "From Jake Morrison, remember him? The security guy who installed our new system?" Her face went pale. "I don't know what you're talking about." "He saw the footage, Lena, from last night, right here in this kitchen." The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. I could practically see her mind racing, trying to figure out how much I knew, how much damage control she needed to do. "David, I can't explain." "Explain what? How you've been screwing your brother's business partner in our home while our children slept upstairs? Or maybe you want to explain the messages I found on your laptop, the ones where you and Brandon discussed my life insurance policy?" She flinched like I'd slapped her. "You went through my private messages?" "Your private messages? Jesus Christ, Lena. You're planning to destroy our family and you're worried about privacy? It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think." My voice cracked with emotion. "I read every single message. I know about the secret bank account. I know about your plans to take half my company. I know you told him you never wanted to be a mother." Tears started flowing down her cheeks, but they looked calculated, practiced. "David, please, let me explain. Brandon and I, it just happened. We never meant for it to go this far." 6 months, Lena. This has been going on for 6 months. That's not something that just happened. That's a deliberate choice to betray your family over and over again. She tried a different approach, stepping closer with her hands outstretched. "We can work through this. We can go to counseling. I'll end things with Brandon right now, I promise." "End things?" I laughed bitterly. "You think this is about the affair? This is about you plotting to take my children away from me. This is about you treating our marriage like a business transaction. The kids need their mother. The kids need a mother who actually wants them. Based on your messages, that's not you." Her tears dried up instantly, replaced by cold anger. This was the real Lena, the one she'd been hiding behind her perfect wife facade. "Fine," she snapped. "You want to play hardball? I'll destroy you in court. I'll take the kids, the house, half your precious company. I'll make sure you end up with nothing." "Good luck with that." I pulled out my phone and showed her the screen. "I've already moved our joint assets into a trust for the children. I've changed all the passwords on our business accounts, and I've sent copies of your messages to my lawyer, your brother, and Brandon's wife." Her face went white. "You sent them to Marcus?" Marcus was Lena's older brother, a straight-laced accountant who'd introduced her to Brandon in the first place. He had no idea his business partner was sleeping with his sister. "He should know what kind of man he's in business with," I said. "And Sarah deserves to know what her husband's been doing." Sarah Wolf was Brandon's wife of 12 years, a sweet woman who'd always been kind to me at social gatherings. She had 3 young children and no idea her marriage was a sham. "David, you don't understand the consequences." "I understand perfectly. You and Brandon want to blow up our families for your own selfish desires. Well, congratulations, mission accomplished." My phone rang. Marcus's name appeared on the screen. "That's probably your brother," I said. "You might want to think about what you're going to tell him." I answered the call and put it on speaker. "David," Marcus's voice was tight with anger, "I just got your email. Please tell me this is some kind of sick joke." "I wish it were, Marcus. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. Where's Lena? Is she there? She's right here. Would you like to speak with her? Lena was shaking her head frantically, but I held the phone toward her. Lena? Marcus's voice was ice cold. What the heck have you done? Marcus, I can explain. Explain? You've been having an affair with my business partner? In David's house? While your children were home? It's complicated. It's not complicated at all. You're a cheating hoe who's destroyed 2 families. I'd never heard Marcus use language like that. He was usually the most polite, measured person I knew. I'm ending my partnership with Brandon today, he continued. And if you think you're getting any support from me in your divorce, you're insane. David's been nothing but good to you and those kids. Marcus, please. But he'd already hung up. Lena stared at the phone, then at me. You've ruined everything. I've ruined everything? You're the one who chose to have an affair. You're the one who chose to plot against your own family. I just made sure there were consequences. The kids will hate you for breaking up their family. The kids will understand when they're older that I protected them from a mother who saw them as inconveniences. They'll understand that I fought for them when their own mother was planning to abandon them. She grabbed her purse and car keys from the counter. This isn't over, David. I'll find a way to make you pay for this. Where are you going? To find a lawyer who can fix this mess? Good luck. Most of the good divorce attorneys in town already know me from my business networking. They've seen the evidence I sent out this morning. I doubt you'll find much sympathy. She stormed toward the door, then turned back. What about my things? I'll have them packed and ready for pickup by this afternoon. You can coordinate with Carol to get them. I'm not leaving my children. You already left them, Lena. You left them the moment you decided Brandon was more important than being their mother. I'm just making it official. After she left, I sat alone in our kitchen, staring at the granite countertop where I'd watched my marriage die. The house felt different now, not like a home, but like a crime scene. My phone buzzed with a text from Jake Morrison. I'm sorry you had to see that, Mr. Thompson. If you need the security footage for legal purposes, I saved 1 copy on an encrypted drive. It's yours if you want it. I typed back, thank you, you probably saved my life. His response came quickly. No man should have to go through what you're going through, but you handled it right. Those kids are lucky to have you. I spent the rest of the morning calling lawyers, accountants, and my business partners. By noon, I'd built a fortress around my assets and my children. Lena could fight all she wanted, but she'd find herself battling an army of professionals who'd seen her true nature in black and white. The hardest call was to my kids. Daddy? Emma's voice was small and confused. Mommy called and said you won't let her see us. Mommy and I are having some grown-up problems right now, sweetheart. But you and Tyler are going to stay with Aunt Carol for a few days while we figure things out. Are you and Mommy getting divorced? The question hit me like a punch to the gut. I don't know yet, Emma, but no matter what happens, you and Tyler are the most important things in the world to me. That will never change. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, baby. More than you'll ever know. The news spread through our social circle like wildfire. By the end of the week, everyone in our suburban community knew about Lena's affair and the dramatic implosion of our marriage. What I didn't expect was how quickly our mutual friends would choose sides, and how many would choose hers. It started with a phone call from Jennifer Hayes, Lena's closest friend and the unofficial queen bee of our neighborhood social scene. David, I think you're being incredibly cruel, she said without preamble. Lena made a mistake, but destroying her publicly like this is vindictive and unnecessary. A mistake? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Jennifer, she was planning to take my children away and destroy my business. That's not a mistake. That's a calculated betrayal. You're only seeing one side of the story. Lena's been unhappy for years. She felt trapped in your marriage. So she decided to have an affair instead of talking to me about it? She decided to plot my destruction instead of asking for a divorce? She was scared of how you'd react, and frankly, seeing how vindictive you're being now, I can understand why. The conversation went downhill from there. By the time Jennifer hung up, she'd made it clear that she and her husband Tom would be supporting Lena through this difficult time. More calls followed. Mike and Sarah Chen, who'd been our neighbors for 8 years, suddenly became cold and distant. They'd heard Lena's version of events, that I'd been emotionally abusive, that I'd driven her into Brandon's arms, that I was using the children as tools in our divorce. The most painful defection came from my former best friend, Robert Martinez. We'd known each other since college, had been each other's best men at our weddings, had coached our kids' soccer teams together. "I can't believe you'd air your dirty laundry like this," he said when he called. "Sending those messages to everyone, getting Marcus to turn against his own sister. That's not the David I know. The David you know just found out his wife was planning to destroy his life. What did you expect me to do? Quietly accept it? I expected you to handle it like a mature adult, go to counseling, work things out privately, not turn it into a public spectacle. Robert, she was planning to take my kids away from me. She told her lover she never wanted to be a mother. How is that something you work out in counseling? People say things they don't mean when they're in emotional turmoil. Lena loves those kids. Have you seen the messages? I don't need to see them. I know Lena. She's a good person who made a bad choice. A bad choice that lasted 6 months and involved plotting my financial destruction? You're being dramatic, David, and honestly, the way you're handling this makes me wonder if there's truth to what people are saying about you being controlling. That stung more than I wanted to admit. Controlling? I'm protecting my children from a woman who sees them as obstacles to her happiness. You're alienating them from their mother out of spite. I'm keeping them away from someone who is planning to abandon them. That's your interpretation of private messages taken out of context. The conversation ended with Robert telling me he needed space to think about our friendship. Translation: he was choosing Lena's side. By the second week, the social battle lines were clearly drawn. Jennifer and Tom Hayes hosted a support dinner for Lena at their house, inviting half our friend group. The message was clear. They believed her version of events, and anyone who wanted to remain in their social circle should too. I found myself increasingly isolated. Invitations to social events dried up. Parents at my kids' school gave me strange looks and whispered behind my back. The narrative had shifted from David caught his wife cheating to David is a controlling husband who's destroying his family out of spite. The breaking point came at Tyler's soccer game. I'd been coaching his team for 2 years, but when I showed up for practice, several parents approached me with uncomfortable expressions. "David," said Michelle Torres, the team mom coordinator, "we've been talking, and we think it might be best if you step down as coach for a while." Stepped down? Why? Given everything that's happening with your divorce and some of the things we've heard about your behavior. What things? What exactly have you heard? Michelle exchanged glances with the other parents. Lena's been telling people about your anger issues, about how you've been threatening her and keeping her from seeing the children. My anger issues? Michelle, she was having an affair in my house while my children slept upstairs. She was plotting to destroy my business and take my kids away. I think a little anger is justified. We're just concerned about the children's well-being, said another parent, Steve Morrison. This kind of conflict isn't healthy for them to be exposed to. You're right, it's not healthy. That's why I removed them from the situation. By keeping them from their mother? By protecting them from someone who told her lover she never wanted to be a mother in the first place? The parents looked skeptical, like they thought I was exaggerating or lying outright. Look, said Michelle, we're not taking sides in your divorce. We just think it's best for the team if you take a break from coaching until things settle down. I looked around at these people I'd considered friends, parents whose children had played at my house, who'd attended birthday parties and barbecues in my backyard. Now they were looking at me like I was a dangerous stranger. Fine, I said. But when the truth comes out, and it will, I hope you'll remember this conversation. The worst part was watching Tyler's face when I told him I wouldn't be coaching anymore. He was too young to understand the adult complexities, but he knew something was wrong. Did I do something bad, Daddy? No, buddy. You didn't do anything wrong. Some grown-ups are just confused right now. When is Mommy coming home? That question got harder to answer every day. I don't know, Tyler, but you're safe with me and Aunt Carol, okay? The social ostracism was taking its toll, but what really infuriated me was how Lena was manipulating the narrative. She'd positioned herself as the victim, the unhappy wife driven to desperation by her controlling husband. The affair was minimized as a mistake, while my reaction was painted as abusive and vindictive. She was good at playing the victim. She'd always been good at manipulating people's emotions, at presenting herself as sympathetic and misunderstood. It's part of what had attracted me to her in the first place, her ability to make people want to protect and help her. Now she was using that same skill to turn our friends against me. The final straw came when I ran into Robert at the grocery store. He was with his wife, Lisa, and they both looked uncomfortable when they saw me. "David," Robert said stiffly, "how are you doing?" "I've been better. How are Emma and Tyler handling everything?" "They're confused and hurt. They miss their mother." Lisa spoke up. "David, don't you think you're being a little harsh, keeping the children from Lena completely?" "I'm not keeping them from her. She's welcome to see them anytime she wants, supervised at my sister's house." "Supervised visits?" Robert shook his head. "She's their mother, not a criminal. She's someone who is planning to abandon them. I'm not taking any chances. You can't seriously believe she'd hurt those kids. I believe she'd put her own desires ahead of their well-being. She's already proven that." Lisa and Robert exchanged a look that said everything. They thought I was being unreasonable, maybe even unstable. "David," Lisa said gently, "maybe you should consider therapy. This level of anger and mistrust isn't healthy." "Therapy? My wife was having an affair for 6 months and plotting to destroy my life, and you think I need therapy for being angry about it?" "We think you need help processing these emotions in a healthier way," Robert said. "The way you're handling this is hurting everyone, especially the kids. The way I'm handling this is protecting my children from a mother who sees them as inconveniences." "That's your interpretation. That's her own words, Robert, in writing. But you don't want to see the evidence, remember? You'd rather believe her lies." I walked away before the conversation could get worse, but the damage was done. Even my oldest friend thought I was the villain in this story. That night, I sat in my empty house and took stock of my situation. My wife was gone, my children were staying with my sister, and most of my friends had turned against me. I'd won the legal battle. Lena's chances of getting custody or a significant portion of my assets were virtually non-existent. But I was losing the social war. The question was, did I care? Looking around at the life I'd built, the community I'd been part of, I realized that maybe losing these friends wasn't such a tragedy after all. If they could turn on me so easily, based on lies and manipulation, were they really friends worth keeping? But there was still the matter of my reputation, my children's future in this community, and my own sense of justice. Lena and her supporters had painted me as the villain, and I was tired of being cast in that role. It was time to fight back. The confrontation I'd been dreading finally came 3 weeks after I discovered the affair. I was at Emma's school for a parent-teacher conference when I saw them. Lena, Jennifer Hayes, Tom Hayes, and Robert Martinez, huddled together in the hallway like a war council. They'd obviously been waiting for me. "David," Jennifer called out as I tried to walk past them toward Emma's classroom. "We need to talk." "I have a conference with Emma's teacher. This isn't the time or place." "Actually, it is," said Tom Hayes, stepping closer. "We're concerned about Emma and Tyler. Their teacher says they're struggling emotionally." "Of course they're struggling. Their mother abandoned them." "Their mother is right here," Lena said, her voice shaking with what I assumed was manufactured emotion. "You're the one keeping them away from me." I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time since our kitchen confrontation. She looked thinner, more fragile, with dark circles under her eyes. The victim costume suited her. "You can see them anytime you want. Supervised, at Carol's house." "You've refused every offer. Supervised visits are humiliating and unnecessary. I'm their mother. You're someone who told her lover she never wanted to be a mother. Forgive me if I don't trust your maternal instincts." Robert stepped forward. "David, this has gone far enough. You're destroying those kids' lives out of spite." "Spite? I'm protecting them. From what? From their mother who loves them? From someone who was planning to abandon them for her boyfriend?" "You keep saying that," Jennifer interjected. "But we've only seen your interpretation of private messages. Maybe you're reading more into them than what's actually there." I stared at her in disbelief. "My interpretation. Would you like me to read you some direct quotes?" "That won't be necessary," Tom said quickly. "Private communications between spouses should remain private. Even when they involve planning to destroy someone's life? Even when they are taken out of context by an angry husband looking for ammunition in a divorce?" The accusation hit me like a physical blow. "Out of context? Tom, she literally wrote that she never wanted to be a mother. How is that out of context?" "People say things they don't mean when they're in emotional turmoil," Robert said. "You're using her private thoughts against her. Her private thoughts included detailed plans to take half my business and leave me with nothing. Those weren't random emotional outbursts. They were calculated strategies." Maybe because she felt trapped in an unhappy marriage, Lena said quietly. Maybe because you made her feel like she had no other options. I turned to face her fully. I made you feel trapped? Lena, you never once told me you were unhappy. You never asked for counseling, never suggested we had problems. You just started screwing your brother's business partner behind my back. Keep your voice down, Jennifer hissed, glancing around at other parents in the hallway. This is a school. You're right, it is a school, where my children come every day while dealing with the trauma of their mother's betrayal, where they have to face questions from other kids about why mommy doesn't live with daddy anymore. The trauma of your vindictive behavior, Tom corrected. You're the one who made this public. You're the one who sent those messages to everyone. I sent evidence of her betrayal to people who needed to know. Her brother deserved to know what kind of man his business partner was. Brandon's wife deserved to know her husband was cheating. You destroyed 2 families, Robert said. Brandon and Sarah are getting divorced now because of what you did. Because of what Brandon did. I just made sure Sarah knew the truth. You could have handled this privately. Like Lena handled her unhappiness privately, by having an affair? That's different. How is that different? She made a choice to betray her family. I made a choice to protect mine. The conversation was getting heated, and other parents were starting to stare. Mrs. Patterson, Emma's teacher, appeared in her doorway and looked confused by the group gathered outside her classroom. Mr. Thompson, we're ready for your conference. I'll be right there. I turned back to the group. This conversation is over. No, it's not, Lena said, grabbing my arm. I want to see my children. Tonight. Without supervision. I looked down at her hand on my arm, then back at her face. Take your hand off me. I'm their mother, I have rights. You have the rights that a judge gives you. Right now, that's supervised visitation, which you've refused, because it's degrading and unnecessary. It's necessary because you were planning to take them away from me. It's necessary because you told your lover you didn't want to be a mother. It's necessary because I don't trust you not to disappear with them. I would never hurt my children. You already have hurt them. Every day they ask me when mommy's coming home, and I have to explain that mommy chose someone else over our family. I didn't choose Brandon over the children. You chose Brandon over everything, over me, over them, over the life we built together. You made that choice every day for 6 months. Jennifer stepped between us. David, you're being cruel. I'm being honest, something none of you seem capable of. We're trying to help you see that you're handling this in the worst possible way, Robert said. Your anger is consuming you. My anger is justified. Your anger is hurting innocent children. You know what hurt innocent children? Their mother having love with another man in their home while they slept upstairs. Their mother planning to abandon them for her boyfriend. My anger didn't cause this situation. Her betrayal did. Tom Hayes shook his head. You're never going to take any responsibility for your part in this, are you? My part? What exactly was my part, Tom? Working 60 hours a week to build a business that would support my family? Coming home every night to have dinner with my wife and children? Coaching my son's soccer team and helping my daughter with her homework? Which of those things justified my wife having an affair? Maybe if you'd paid more attention to your wife's emotional needs. Stop. I held up my hand. Just stop. You're actually standing here blaming me for her affair. You're saying it's my fault that she chose to betray our family. We're saying that marriages don't fail in a vacuum, Jennifer said. There are usually problems on both sides. The problem on my side was trusting someone who was lying to me every single day. The problem on my side was believing my wife when she said she loved me and our children. David, Lena said softly, I did love you. I do love the children. You have a funny way of showing it. I made a mistake. You made a choice. Every day for 6 months, you made the choice to betray your family. You made the choice to plan our destruction. You made the choice to tell another man you never wanted to be a mother. Those weren't mistakes. They were deliberate decisions. Mrs. Patterson cleared her throat. Mr. Thompson, I really do need to start our conference. I looked around at the group of people who had once been my friends who were now standing in judgment of me while defending the woman who had destroyed our family. You want to know what I think? I said. I think you're all so invested in your narrative of me being the villain that you can't face the truth about what Lena did. It's easier to blame me for being angry than to admit you've been supporting someone who betrayed her own children. That's not true, Robert protested. Isn't it? When was the last time any of you asked about Emma and Tyler? When was the last time you wondered how they are coping with their mother's abandonment? All I hear from you is criticism of how I'm handling the situation and sympathy for poor Lena. We care about the children, Jennifer said defensively. You care about maintaining your social circle. You care about not having to choose sides. You care about keeping your comfortable worldview intact where these things don't happen to people like us. You're being unfair, Tom said. I'm being realistic. And here's some more reality for you. I'm done caring what any of you think. I'm done justifying my actions to people who refuse to see the truth. I'm done pretending that your friendship matters more than my children's well-being. I turned to Lena. You want to see the kids? Call my lawyer and arrange supervised visits through the court. Follow the legal process like everyone else. David, please, we're done here. All of us. I walked into Mrs. Patterson's classroom and closed the door behind me, leaving them standing in the hallway. Through the small window, I could see them huddled together, probably discussing what a terrible person I was and how they could help poor Lena deal with her unreasonable ex-husband. Let them talk. Let them judge. Let them create whatever narrative made them feel better about themselves. I had more important things to worry about, like the parent-teacher conference that would tell me how badly this situation was affecting my children, and what I could do to help them heal from their mother's betrayal. Mrs. Patterson was kind and professional, but her concerns were clear. Emma was struggling with anxiety and asking difficult questions about why families break apart. Tyler was acting out in class and having trouble concentrating. They're good kids, she assured me, but they're obviously dealing with a lot of stress. Have you considered family counseling? I've been looking into it. It's just complicated with the custody situation. I understand. Just know that we're here to support them however we can. As I left the school that evening, I realized that the confrontation in the hallway had actually been liberating. I'd finally said everything I'd been holding back, and I'd made it clear that I was done seeking approval from people who had already made up their minds about me. The truth was out there, documented and undeniable. Eventually, it would speak for itself. But first, I had to focus on helping my children heal from the damage their mother had done. 2 months after the confrontation at Emma's school, I was ready to execute my plan. I'd spent weeks gathering additional evidence, consulting with lawyers, and most importantly, ensuring my children were stable and healing. They were thriving in their temporary arrangement with Carol, attending counseling, and slowly beginning to understand that their mother's absence wasn't their fault. Lena had made several attempts to see them through legal channels, but each time she'd failed to follow through with the court-ordered requirements. She'd missed 2 supervised visits, claiming she was too emotional to see her children under such circumstances. The message was clear. She wanted access on her terms or not at all. Meanwhile, her support network was beginning to crack. Brandon's divorce had been finalized, and the details were ugly. Sarah had received half of his assets, including his share of the real estate business he'd built with Marcus. Brandon was now essentially broke and unemployed, having been forced out of every professional relationship he'd cultivated over the years. The stress was showing on Lena, too. According to Carol, who'd maintained some contact with mutual acquaintances, Lena was struggling financially and emotionally. The fantasy life she'd planned with Brandon was crumbling under the weight of reality. But I wasn't satisfied with passive observation. I wanted justice, not just the legal kind, but the personal kind that comes from exposing the truth to everyone who had supported her lies. My opportunity came when Jennifer Hayes announced that she was organizing a community healing dinner at the country club. The stated purpose was to bring together friends who had been divided by recent events and to support those who were struggling. Everyone knew it was really a fundraiser for Lena, disguised as a social event. I wasn't invited, of course, but I didn't need an invitation. The dinner was scheduled for a Saturday evening in the club's main dining room. I knew the layout well. I'd attended dozens of events there over the years. I also knew the staff, particularly the catering manager, Maria Santos, whose son had been on Tyler's soccer team. "Mr. Thompson," Maria said when I called her, "I heard about what happened with your family. I'm so sorry." "Thank you, Maria. I appreciate that. I was wondering if I could ask you a favor." "Of course. What do you need?" "There's going to be a dinner at the club next Saturday. I need to address some things that have been said about me, but I'm not invited. Is there any way you could help me get inside?" Maria was quiet for a moment. "This is about Mrs. Thompson and what she did, isn't it?" "Yes. People have been spreading lies about me, and I need to set the record straight. My husband and I never believed those stories. We know you're a good man. What do you need me to do? We worked out a simple plan. Maria would let me in through the service entrance at 8 o'clock, after the dinner had started, but before the speeches began. I would have a few minutes to say what I needed to say before security could remove me. That Saturday evening, I dressed carefully in my best suit and gathered the materials I'd prepared. Printed copies of Lena's most damning messages, financial records showing her secret accounts, and a timeline of her deception. I also brought a small digital recorder and a portable speaker. Technology would be my ally in this confrontation. At exactly 8 o'clock, I met Maria at the service entrance. "They're all here," she whispered. "About 40 people. Mrs. Thompson is at the head table with the Hayes and your friend Robert." "He's not my friend anymore," I said quietly. "But thank you for this, Maria. I won't forget it." "Just tell the truth, Mr. Thompson. That's all any of us can do." I made my way through the service corridors to the dining room. Through the small window in the swinging door, I could see the gathered crowd. They looked prosperous and comfortable, enjoying their wine and their righteous sense of supporting a wronged woman. Jennifer Hayes was standing at the podium, giving a speech about community and healing and supporting those in need. She was building up to the pitch for Lena, painting her as a victim of a vindictive ex-husband who had destroyed her life out of spite. Lena Thompson is a devoted mother who has been separated from her children by a man who values revenge more than his family's well-being, Jennifer was saying. She's struggling financially and emotionally, but she's never given up hope of reuniting with Emma and Tyler. The crowd murmured sympathetically. I could see Lena at the head table, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. She'd mastered the art of looking fragile and wronged. "Tonight, we're not just sharing a meal," Jennifer continued. "We're making a statement about what kind of community we want to be. Do we abandon our friends when they make mistakes, or do we support them through their darkest hours?" More murmurs of agreement. This was my cue. I pushed through the swinging door and walked calmly into the dining room. It took a moment for people to notice me, but when they did, the reaction was immediate. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Forks paused halfway to mouths. All eyes turned to me as I walked toward the podium. "I'm sorry to interrupt," I said, my voice carrying clearly across the silent room. "But I couldn't let this evening continue without addressing some of the things that have been said." Jennifer stepped back from the podium, her face pale. "David, you can't be here. This is a private event." "I know it's private. That's exactly why I need to be here. It's easy to spread lies about someone when they're not around to defend themselves." I could see Tom Hayes reaching for his phone, probably calling security. I needed to work fast. "You've all heard Jennifer's version of recent events," I continued, stepping up to the podium. "The story about the devoted mother separated from her children by a vindictive ex-husband. It's a compelling narrative, and I understand why you'd want to support it." "David, please leave," Robert called out from his table. "You're only making things worse." "Worse for whom, Robert?" "Worse for you, because you might have to confront the fact that you've been supporting someone who betrayed her own children." I pulled out my phone and connected it to the speaker system. "I'd like to share some information that Jennifer didn't include in her speech. These are direct quotes from messages between my ex-wife and her lover, Brandon Wolfe." "You can't do this," Lena said, standing up from her chair. "Those are private communications." "They were private until you used them to plan the destruction of my family. Now they're evidence." I pressed play on the first recording. It was me reading one of Lena's messages in a clear, steady voice. "Brandon, I can't wait until this charade is over. Playing the devoted wife and mother is exhausting. I never wanted kids in the first place. They were David's idea. Once I get half his business in the divorce, we can start our real life together." The room was dead silent. I could see shock and confusion on faces throughout the crowd. I played the second recording. "The life insurance policy is worth $2 million. If something happened to David, I'd be set for life. Not that I'm suggesting anything, but accidents do happen." Now there were gasps and uncomfortable shifting in chairs. The narrative was cracking. I played one more. "Emma asked me yesterday when I was going to stop working so much and spend more time with her. I wanted to tell her that I'm counting the days until I never have to pretend to care about her problems again. Is it wrong that I find my own children boring?" The silence that followed was deafening. I could see tears in some people's eyes, not tears of sympathy for Lena, but tears of shock at her cruelty. "These messages spanned 6 months," I said. "This wasn't a momentary lapse in judgment or a mistake made in emotional turmoil. This was a sustained campaign of deception and betrayal." I pulled out the printed financial records. Lena and Brandon opened 3 secret bank accounts during their affair. They were systematically moving money out of our joint accounts and planning to liquidate my business assets after the divorce. Tom Hayes found his voice. Even if this is true, airing it publicly like this is inappropriate. Inappropriate? I turned to face him. Tom, your wife organized this dinner to raise money for someone who was planning to abandon her children. She's asking you to support someone who told her lover that she found her own kids boring. What's inappropriate is that none of you bothered to ask for the truth before choosing sides. I looked around the room, making eye contact with as many people as possible. You want to know why I kept Emma and Tyler away from their mother? Because she didn't want them. You want to know why I exposed her affair? Because she was planning to destroy my life and leave my children without a father. You want to know why I'm angry? Because the people I thought were my friends believed her lies without question. Security guards were entering the dining room now, but I was almost finished. I have copies of all these messages for anyone who wants to see the complete evidence, I said, placing stacks of papers on nearby tables. I also have financial records, phone logs, and witness statements. Everything is documented and verified. I turned to Lena, who was still standing at the head table, tears streaming down her face. You wanted to play the victim, Lena. You wanted everyone to believe that I was the monster who destroyed our family, but the truth has a way of coming out. The security guards reached me, but they were moving slowly, clearly unsure about how to handle the situation. The crowd was too shocked to react with hostility. I'm leaving voluntarily, I told the guards. Then I addressed the room one final time. My children are safe, happy, and healing from the trauma their mother caused. They're in counseling, they're doing well in school, and they're learning that they're not responsible for adult failures. Emma told me yesterday that she's proud of me for protecting them. That's all the validation I need. I walked toward the exit, then turned back. Oh, and Jennifer, if you really want to help someone who's struggling, there are plenty of actual victims in this community who could use your support. Single mothers who didn't choose to abandon their children. Families dealing with real hardships through no fault of their own. Maybe consider them for your next fundraiser. I left through the main entrance, walking past the security guards who made no attempt to stop me. Behind me, I could hear the eruption of voices as 40 people tried to process what they'd just learned. My phone started ringing before I reached my car. Carol's name appeared on the screen. David, what did you do? I'm getting calls from everyone. I told the truth, Carol. Finally, completely, and publicly. People are saying you crashed some kind of dinner and played recordings. I presented evidence that proved everything I've been saying for months. Evidence that showed exactly what kind of person Lena really is. David, the kids are fine. They're safe, they're loved, and they're not going to grow up wondering if their father was too weak to protect them from someone who didn't want them. But the social fallout doesn't matter, Carol. What matters is that the truth is finally out there. What matters is that Emma and Tyler will grow up knowing their father fought for them. Over the next few days, the story spread throughout our community like wildfire. But this time, the narrative was different. This time, people had heard Lena's own words, in her own voice, expressing her true feelings about her children and her marriage. The response was swift and decisive. Jennifer Hayes called to apologize, admitting that she'd been manipulated by someone I thought I knew. Robert showed up at my door with tears in his eyes, begging forgiveness for doubting me. Tom Hayes sent a formal letter of apology and a check to cover my legal expenses. Most importantly, the court took notice. When Lena's lawyer tried to argue for increased custody rights, the judge had copies of all the evidence I'd presented. The supervised visitation order remained in place, with the added stipulation that Lena would need to complete parenting classes and psychological evaluation before any changes would be considered. Lena herself disappeared from the community within a week of the dinner. According to Marcus, she'd moved to another state, claiming she needed a fresh start. She'd made no attempt to see Emma and Tyler before leaving. Brandon Wolfe had already left town months earlier, reportedly working construction jobs in another state and living in a trailer park. The man who had once owned a successful real estate business and lived in a mansion was now struggling to pay rent on a mobile home. 3 months later, I was sitting in my backyard watching Emma and Tyler play on their swing set. They were laughing and arguing over whose turn it was. Normal children engaged in normal childhood activities. The trauma was still there. They were still in counseling, still dealing with questions about their mother. But they were healing. Emma ran over to me, grass stains on her knees and a huge smile on her face. "Daddy, Tyler says I can't swing as high as him, but I totally can. Will you push me?" "Of course, sweetheart." As I pushed my daughter on the swing, listening to her delighted squeals, I thought about justice and revenge and the difference between the two. I'd spent months being painted as the villain, watching people I'd trusted turn against me based on lies and manipulation. But in the end, the truth had won. Not because I was perfect, not because I'd handled everything flawlessly, but because I'd refused to let lies stand unchallenged when my children's future was at stake. Lena had gambled that she could destroy our family and emerge as the victim. She'd counted on her ability to manipulate people's emotions and control the narrative. She'd believed that her friends would support her regardless of what she'd done. She'd lost that gamble completely. Now she was alone, exiled from the community she'd tried to manipulate, separated from the children she'd planned to abandon, and facing the consequences of every choice she'd made. I'd kept my promise to protect Emma and Tyler, and I'd done it without compromising my integrity or breaking any laws. I'd simply made sure that everyone knew the truth. "Higher, Daddy!" Emma called out. "I want to touch the clouds!" "Hold on tight," I said, giving her another push. "Let's see how high you can go." As I watched my daughter soar through the air, fearless and joyful, I realized that this was what victory looked like. Not the destruction of my enemies, but the protection of my children. Not revenge for its own sake, but justice that served a purpose. Emma and Tyler would grow up knowing that their father had fought for them when it mattered most. They would grow up understanding that actions have consequences, that truth matters more than popularity, and that real love means protecting the people you care about, even when it's difficult. Lena had chosen Brandon over her family, and she'd lost everything that truly mattered. I'd chosen my children over my social standing, and I'd gained everything that was worth having. The sun was setting behind the trees, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Emma and Tyler were getting tired, their energy finally winding down after a day of play and laughter. "Time to go inside," I called. "Bath time, then story time." "Can we have 2 stories tonight?" Tyler asked, hopefully. "Just 1 story each," I said. "But you can pick whichever ones you want." As we walked toward the house together, my children's hands in mine, I felt a peace I hadn't experienced in months. The battle was over. The truth had prevailed. And my family, what remained of it, was stronger than ever. Lena had tried to destroy us, but she'd only succeeded in showing us what we truly meant to each other. That night, after the kids were asleep, I sat in my home office and deleted the last of the evidence files from my computer. I didn't need them anymore. The truth had served its purpose, and now it was time to focus on building a future rather than documenting the past. I opened a new document and began typing, Emma and Tyler's college fund investment strategy. It was time to stop looking backward and start planning forward. My children deserved a father who was focused on their future, not haunted by their mother's betrayal. The phone rang. Carol's name appeared on the screen. "How are you doing?" she asked. "I'm good, Carol, really good. The kids are happy. I'm sleeping through the night for the first time in months, and I'm starting to think about what comes next. Any regrets about how you handled things?" I thought about that question seriously. Had I been too harsh, too public, too unforgiving? "No," I said finally. "I protected my children from someone who was planning to abandon them. I exposed lies that were destroying my reputation and my relationship with my kids. I made sure the truth came out before it was too late to matter. Even the public confrontation at the dinner? Especially that. Those people were raising money to support someone who had called her own children boring and planned to abandon them. They deserved to know who they were really supporting. And Lena? Any regrets about how things ended for her? I considered that question too. Did I feel bad that she'd lost everything? That she was alone and struggling? She made her choices, Carol. Every single day for 6 months, she chose to betray her family. She chose to plan our destruction. She chose to tell another man she never wanted to be a mother. I didn't make those choices for her. But now she's lost everything. She lost what she was trying to throw away anyway. The only difference is that she didn't get to profit from it. That sounds pretty cold, David. maybe it is. But you know what would have been colder? Letting her take my children away from me? Letting her destroy my business and leave me with nothing? Letting her get away with 6 months of lies and betrayal? Carol was quiet for a moment. The kids seem happy. They are happy. They're safe, they're loved, and they're not going to grow up in a home where their mother resents their existence. They're better off without her, and that's not my fault. That's hers. What happens if she ever wants to come back? If she gets her life together and wants to be part of their lives again? Then she'll have to prove she's changed. She'll have to show that she actually wants to be a mother, not just play one when it's convenient. And she'll have to do it through the legal system, with all the safeguards in place to protect Emma and Tyler. Do you think that's possible? Honestly, no. I think Lena is fundamentally selfish. I think she saw motherhood as an obligation rather than a privilege, and I don't think that changes. But if I'm wrong, if she genuinely transforms herself and wants to be a real mother to her children, then we'll deal with that when it happens. And you? Any thoughts about dating, moving on, finding someone new? I laughed. Carol, 6 months ago, I discovered that my wife of 15 years was planning to destroy my life. I'm not exactly ready to trust another woman with my heart. But someday? Someday, maybe. Right now, I'm focused on being the best father I can be. Emma and Tyler need stability and consistency. They need to know that at least one parent is completely committed to their well-being. You're a good man, David. I hope you know that. I'm a man who protected his children. That's what any decent father would do. After I hung up, I walked through my house, turning off lights and checking locks. It was a routine I'd developed since Lena left, a way of marking the end of each day and preparing for the next. In the hallway, I stopped to look at the family photos that still hung on the walls. Most of them included Lena, smiling and looking happy. For years, I'd believed those smiles were genuine. Now I wondered how many of them had been performances. But it didn't matter anymore. What mattered were the new photos I was taking. Pictures of Emma and Tyler at the park, at school events, during quiet moments at home. Pictures that captured their healing and their joy. I made a mental note to schedule a professional photo session soon. It was time to update the family portraits to reflect our new reality. As I climbed the stairs to check on the kids one final time, I thought about the journey that had brought us to this point. 6 months ago, I'd been living a lie, married to a woman who was planning my destruction while I worked to build our future. Now, I was living the truth, difficult as it sometimes was. My children knew they were loved unconditionally. My friends knew who I really was. My community knew the facts about what had happened to our family. The truth hadn't been easy or comfortable, but it had been liberating. I stood in the doorway of Emma's room, watching her sleep peacefully. Her breathing was steady and calm, no signs of the nightmares that had plagued her in the early weeks after Lena left. In Tyler's room, he was sprawled across his bed with his favorite stuffed animal tucked under his arm. He looked younger in sleep, innocent and trusting. These were the people I'd fought for. These were the lives I'd protected. Whatever the cost had been, whatever relationships I'd lost, whatever reputation I'd sacrificed, it had all been worth it for these 2 sleeping children who would grow up knowing their father had chosen them over everything else. I closed their doors quietly and went to my own room. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new moments to build the life we deserved. But tonight, I would sleep peacefully, knowing that my children were safe, and the truth had finally set us all free.